Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and I'm currently about to show you what it's like to drive a 2025 Mazda CX-5. This one specifically is not a turbo, it's just the premium or the premier trim level, I should say. So it's fired up, listen to the engine, subtle, but it does sound a little bit deep, a little bit throaty for a 2.5 liter Skyactiv engine. Quickly, let's look at the backup camera. It doesn't take up the full screen, the trajectory lines don't move with the wheel, but it's actually fairly clear, you can easily tell what's going on. So now let's pop it into drive. I'm on some gravel right here. Let's see how well this all-wheel drive system works to launch us out of here. Foot to the floor. Ooh, and I didn't feel any wheel slip. That's pretty good. I have a few driving videos of Mazda's all-wheel drive system in the winter. And spoiler alert, it actually does really well. A lot better than I was expecting for it to be kind of a front-wheel drive bias system. But let's do this. Let's pop it into sport mode, which on this preferred trim level is the only little mode you get there. Check this out. Sport pops up above the drive, and let's get it up to speed and see how things are in the new, or I guess the same old, maybe the 9th year of the CX-5. So we're gonna see how long it takes to catch this Chevy Silverado work truck. Engine sounds really good, but it definitely is taking a little while to get up to speed. Keep in mind today, I'm at the equivalent of over a mile above sea level, so this naturally aspirated engine is having to work fairly hard to get up to speed. But once you're at speed, in sport mode, where you're basically downshifted to gear, it's revving pretty high, about 3,500 RPM, but I really can't hear it. So if I drop it down to normal mode, you'll see it basically just downshifted, and now it's a little bit over 2,000 RPM. If I would be quiet for a moment, you'll notice it's actually pretty nice in here, pretty good sound deadening. There's not a ton of glass, so the acoustics in here sound like what you expect. A lot of soft materials, not a lot of hard plastics. So really a lot of the volume gets absorbed pretty well. And this is just a really nice place to be. One of the best things about these Mazdas is just how sporty they are to drive. They can do a full circle in about 35, 36 feet. So when you push it to the limits, it might not ultimately handle that much better than some of the other crossovers like by Honda, Toyota, Subaru. But around town, the steering, even at a little bit of speed, it feels really composed. It feels really straightforward. And even when you get into the cruise control, you turn it on with mode and then you go up for set. I'm gonna actually go down just a few. This one doesn't have the heads-up display, the heated steering wheel, the ventilated seats, obviously the turbo like some of the higher trim levels are, that cost about 40 grand. But for this being a low $30,000 car, and I'm sure Goody Mazda will give you a nice big discount, I'll link them below, and they also ship all over the country. Can you really blame it for being, you know, $32,000, $33,000 the way this one's configured? To have white leather heated seats, the backpack's having a good time. I do wish the back seats were a little bit bigger, but you have about 30 cubic feet of storage behind the second row. Let's take this corner with a little bit of speed. Yeah, I mean, that does handle better than a lot of other crossovers, but when you give it full gas, when you really push a corner even harder, then you start to feel kind of the front wheel drive heaviness and downfalls of what this platform is. But it is one of the funnest crossovers to drive at any price point, weighing probably the low 3,000 pound range where this one doesn't have the turbo and all the extra electronics and fancy bits. It just is a really nice driving experience. The AC is cold. The speakers in this, it's not the Bose system, which Bose and Mazda have a really good relationship, and they've built great systems over the years. My Mazda that I used to own had the Bose system, but this regular sound system, it doesn't have the depth. It doesn't vibrate. You can't feel the bass from it, but it does have pretty good clarity. Even turning it up about 2/3 of the volume and testing earlier, I was pretty surprised at how clear the audio quality was. That paired with how well insulated this car is, honestly, it does a really good job. I wouldn't be surprised if under the hood there's a sound tube to buff in some sound from the engine, because the engine, for being a 4-cylinder, it sounds really mean. Obviously, we're not doing crazy 0 to 60s. Let me show you what it does right here. 0 to 60 in the Mazda CX-5, keep in mind density altitude is 6,000 feet, so it's down power about 20%, making it only have about 150 horsepower today. I'm in sport mode. I'm gonna brake rev the 6-speed automatic. Let's see what it can do. Ooh, pretty good. Yeah, second and third gear, it gets a little bit long-winded, especially at this altitude. But first gear pulled pretty good. It actually sounded really good, and that did a 0 to 60 in 10.07 seconds, or a high 9 without rollout. But still a 10-second true 0 to 60 at 6,000 feet of density altitude or altitude equivalent. That's not bad. Overall, this is just a really composed, really nice driving position. I think Mazdas do a good job. The dashboard does feel like it's up kind of high on this. I could have it be a little bit lower, or you could always raise the seat up pretty high. And with all the power adjustments that this one has, even having the 2-person memory seat option, that's pretty cool too. So it is easy to get a convenient spot. I'm 5'11". I have a few inches above my head, and that's even with the sunroof. So not too bad. But pulling over, let's just listen to it idle with the foot on the brake. Idles maybe 700 RPM. Really smooth. You can hear that truck go by. And let's do a quick little U-turn. Should take about 18 feet. Yeah, feels very convenient. It's easy to place this vehicle where you want to go. Yeah, this engine, it really sounds like it must be piping in some sound because it's so noticeable. But honestly, I love that because this is surprisingly a really good sounding little 4-cylinder. But the trade-offs are, you know, and for some of these CX-5s, Mazda being slow to adopt auto start stop, you still don't get the best mileage, but I think a lot of people are gonna like that, to not have their vehicle starting and stopping all the time or having to push the button to disable that. Also, a lot of people aren't sure how strong the starters are, and where starting a vehicle is usually the hardest part on the engine. I mean, thankfully, if you're driving, the engine's warm, it shouldn't stress it out as much, but still a lot of people just don't know how reliable those systems are once you're out of warranty, you know, years down the road. So I'm glad that this one and a lot of the turbo ones, they just don't have that. So it just feels good. It feels solid. It feels like what a crossover should feel like. But the trade-off is, you know, about 23 city, about 29 highway. And with a 15-gallon tank, your max road trip and range is going to be, what, in the about 435 miles or so. This does a pretty good job just handling highway driving around town. I probably drove it through 5-6 miles of in-town driving before getting it out into the country. And I can tell you it feels just as planted in town as it does on the highway. I haven't taken this all the way up to 80 miles an hour, so if your speed limits on your interstates go that high, just check one out for yourself, test drive it. But always test drive the competition. Make sure that you guys are buying the right vehicle for you. Remember, I'll link this one below in the description. Also, the dealership is fantastic to work with, so check them out if you want a good deal and you want to maybe make a road trip or have the vehicle shipped to you. But overall, this is just a really nice place to be. And I highly recommend these. They're also top safety picks, and they're just fun to drive. And with that said, I wish you guys the best. I hope you take care. Hope to see you on the next one. Subscribe if you haven't. Like this video and comment your thoughts and opinions below. Are you one of the 3.5 million people who own a CX-5 throughout the world? These are sold globally. This one was built in Japan and then shipped to the US, but the US does buy about 150,000 of these a year. So they're a pretty popular model, and if you do decide to buy one of these, you're not alone. There's over 1 million others in the US, and a lot of the people who own these on the forum seem to love them. And anyways, I think at this point I'm just rambling on, so I hope this video is helpful for you guys, especially the driving impressions, characteristics of it. And with that said, I wish you guys the best. Hope to see you again, but take care.